So today we are going to discuss on how to set up a hydrographic survey navigation software. There are a couple of softwares in our industry. They look quite different, but if we go through the logical flow, they are almost the same. So whenever we run the navigation software, it would land up in a initial page where we have to first select the server settings or the place and folder where we want to have the database stored, which can be shared among various computers. So generally it would be a client server setup, or let's say a master slave setup, unless it is just one computer on which we are hoping to run the server navigation software. So once the server settings have been done, then it comes to opening a new project. And when we open a new project, the first thing we have to do is the administrative setup, which basically is the name of the project number, and it may have option to add the client name, the party chief name, and other details. When we generate reports, it automatically adds all the details of the project and people in the report. Once that is done, then we come to the page which is called the Geodesy. So let's start with Geodesy. So what happens with Geodesy? We use GNSS system for positioning or surface positioning. And for that purpose, GNSS uses WGS84. We know that Earth is not a perfect geometrical shape, but for our purposes, initially we had ellipsoid, which is a nice geometrical or a mathematical shape of Earth. Then we were able to generate geoid, the gravitational equipotential surface, because when we started sending satellites in orbit, depending on the mass of a place, it would have a different gravitational pull, which would be felt by the satellites, and depending on the force they feel, we could determine the gravitational potential of that space, and that was a much rather precise shape of the Earth. So that was geoid, and finally we come to datum, and then we have got local datums. Any questions? So basically, when we are getting the position from GNSS system, it by default is in WGS84. But for our purpose, we may want to have it converted to a local datum. So all that happen in the Geodesy settings. That is a 3D projection of the shape of Earth, but we may like to have it in a 2D map shape to put it on our display. And for all practical purposes, so we need to have a projection. So generally the projection is UTM. For UTM, the Earth is divided into 60 zones, so we have to be very careful to point out the right zone in which we are working. So that is a big consideration here. Finally, once we are done with it, then there will be always an option to validate the position so that we are sure of it. We must understand the basics to be sure on what we are doing. All of this information will be available in the scope of work that would be provided by our office or by the client, and we have to simply see that all the settings are done as per the scope of work. And the client would give us a non-position and we'll validate it on our software. And so we are sure that our geodesy settings are correct. So once we are sure that our geodesy settings are correct, then we come to the interesting part, which is add hardware.